Hello and welcome to my vlog. I'm Joan Manson, and today I'm going to be working with Fred and Ginger in pastel pencils with a touch of NuPastel. My niece was a travel agent and was in Africa recently and took photos of this beautiful African golden crown crane. And I named them Fred and Ginger because part of their courtship tradition is dancing. And this is Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers from some public domain photos. They were well known from the 30s and the 40s as professional dancers and made lots of musical comedies. I use Prismacolor and I use Caran D'Ache pastel pencils. Okay, I did Ginger off screen, but now, well, Fred is going to put his hand out to ask Ginger to dance, and I'm going to share with you how I painted beautiful Fred with pastel pencils and a touch of NuPastels. Settling into my workplace, I have all my pencils brought out. And that's the reference photo. I didn't have a reference photo with a good profile, so this one I downloaded from Pixabay. I believe the photographer's B. Hunter. I had trouble getting a connection, but I didn't finally manage. Now, I'm using golden yellow NuPastel pastel stick. The thing about the NuPastels, which is in fact the first pastel I ever used, is that they are hard. They don't create as much dust. You can sharpen them and use the edges for drawing, as you would with any pastel pencil. Now, and I'm just blending this in with a blending sponge. And I started with the top and I'm going to work my way down to the bottom. This part took 45 minutes to do. I've sped this up. So we're working in double time right now. And I'm using a Caran D'Ache pastel pencil, sunny yellow. And I'm just using a regular pearl eraser to clear out any spaces where I don't want the pastel to be. I have all kinds of erasers, but I find for some reason the pearl is working beautifully with the pastel pencils and with pastels. And this is white. Now I have just purchased the 40 pencil set from Caran D'Ache of the pastel pencils, and it doesn't come with white. So I'm using the white pencil that came with my general set. It works very nicely. It's also a hard pencil, and it covers other pastel pencils, blends with other pastel pencils beautifully. So I have those out if I need something to supplement my Caran D'Ache. The Generals has only 24 pencils in their pastel set, so you can't go crazy wanting more. And I don't believe they sell them open stock, but I could be completely wrong. I'd double check with Dick Blick to see if that was the case, or Jerry's Artorama, but I've just started with them, so I've got plenty of use with them. I have been buying their white pencils for quite some time because I do a lot of white drawings on black paper. Now this is a light gray, also from Caran D'Ache. Except for the white, everything I'm using is from Caran D'Ache. Just blend it in. Oh, and I'm using tinted paper it's 12 by 16 and it's from Canson Tientes. I've used a artist masking tape to tape it down to my board. And now I'm using the white, or the light gray rather, but I'm bringing in the white now so I can lighten up specific areas to give form. You need to have the light and the medium and the dark in order to give form to anything. I worked for about two and a half, maybe 3 hours on Ginger. She was in hair and makeup for a very long time. Oh, did I mention? Probably not. That the African crane mates for life. And I did mention that part of their mating ritual is the dance. So since my niece took a photo of this lovely crane in the midst of beginning a dance, or perhaps just crossing the savannah, I thought it was a wonderful opportunity to name them Fred and Ginger and to share that aspect of their life. As I mentioned earlier, you may not be familiar with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. In the 30s and the 40s, they made a lot of musical comedies, and both are professional dancers, and somehow they just meshed very well. They did separate. They were never married. They did separate because Ginger Rogers wanted to make take more dramatic roles, and Fred Astaire wanted to be an individual dancer, not part of a team. He wanted to showcase his own talents. Plus, he also acted in some dramatic roles. He probably always danced a little, but they weren't musical comedies. Anyway, if you want to see them in action, you can Google them. Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. And I'm highlighting the throat. And this is the red. And this is the darker gray that I'm using to create some shadow. I use a blending stump to blend these. I do have one tool over there to blend that I used a little bit, but not on Ginger, but not very much, mostly on the whites. But I find the tortillons and the blending stumps to work very nicely for me. I have better control with them. I can do smaller spaces with them, and they blend and they do work very nicely in blending the pencils. Okay, my little darlings were done freehand. You can certainly trace them if you want from your photographs. No reason that you can't. If you've got a camera lucida, you can do that. Whatever you'd like to do. I really lucked out for this. I came out just about the right size with my drawing of Fred. I tend to draw large, and actually with Ginger as well, I managed to make it just right. The proportions are just right. Okay. And the composition is created in my mind. Now, artists are visual people. We see things in our brains. I looked at Ginger, and I could see that Fred Astaire would be standing to the side, extending an arm or a wing to invite her to dance. But I wanted more detail of the face as well, so I wanted to do a profile of the crane. And that is part of their crown. Black feathers. Almost looks like a curly set of hair. My poor little black pencil from Caran D'Ache is from an older set, and it is really, really shrinking. And this is the deal with pastel pencils. They wear down much more quickly than regular colored pencils do, or watercolor pencils for that matter. But the Caran D'Ache, while they're very soft, don't create a lot of dust. Actually, most of the pencils don't create a lot of dust. There is some. There's always some. And my choice to use the NuPastels in this was because they are hard. If I needed to, I could use one of the colors as a pencil, and I wouldn't create a lot of dust there either. Most of the dust that I'm creating is from the eraser. Okay, now I'm using a dark blue to work on the beak. And again, the Tortillon, Tortillon, in the event I'm mispronouncing it terribly, works beautifully. And I can just bring in that General's white chalk pencil, which blends beautifully on top of the Caran D'Ache. They work very well together. Now the Generals are a moderately priced pencil. Not inexpensive, but moderately priced. On the other hand, the Caran D'Ache are really expensive, where the General's pencil is probably $1.10 a piece. The Caran D'Ache are more like $3.10 a piece. But when I was doing a previous piece of Tumta, I used the Caran D'Ache, and I hadn't realized how much I really enjoyed them. So I went ahead and bought the 40 pencil set. And there, just a couple of the colors weren't duplicated, but that's just fine because, as I said, the pastel pencils wear down. So I've got replacements for them in the other set. And I have on order a few other colors that weren't in this set that I wanted to add. So they'll be coming anytime now. I've been told that they have been shipped. That's a piece of glycine paper covering Ginger so that I don't smear her. You can get glycine paper, you can use wax paper, you can use a paper towel. You just want to be sure that it doesn't pick up the pastel and it doesn't smear the pastel when you rest your hand on it. And now we're going to start working on, well, that would be the royal we, on the neck and upper part of the body. And I'm using the darker gray here. And I'm speeding this part up a bit more because there isn't that much very different going on. I'm going to be creating shadow for the feathers and adding light to highlight feathers and blending back and forth. And I'm using the black that I picked up from working the crown of the bird to add to the gray that I have here, adding shadow, separation, the idea that they're separate feathers. Just rub it on the edge and it lets it come in, and you've got a nice charcoal pencil. I don't think I'll ever get over blending with my fingers. Now I'm using the gray for the NuPastel set so that I can add more color more quickly. Again, blending with my fingers. I know a lot of people don't like the feel of the pastel chalk. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. And there are people for whom it's a health issue. So you can use latex or latex type gloves because some people are allergic to the latex. Or you can use blending tips for your fingers. I don't know what they're made of, but I have seen those. But I really don't like things on my fingers. It's one of the reasons I don't even wear nail polish is because I don't like the feeling of the polish on my fingers. I can feel the chemicals and they bother me. And then I end up just picking it off, and then they look terrible. Again, I'm using the Tortillon to add black and then coming back in. Oops, got to sharpen that with my comb sharpener. They do wear down. This is the lighter gray again. Just adding highlights where I need highlights and darks where I need darks. And in this case, the dark gray is the midtone. Yeah, I'm going to use the white pencil. Well, the light gray pencil, excuse me, to accentuate the curly features of those black feathers and then add some more of those long feathers to the crown. I want to go over the black and over the face and the throat with them. Okay, and here we're finished now. I thank you for following along with me. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, And if you aren't already subscribing, I would appreciate it if you chose to subscribe. If you click on that little bell, you'll be reminded of my new videos. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Now I'm removing very carefully the tape. And you always pull the tape away from the image. That way if the paper tears, you won't tear into the image. You may pick up a little extra paper as you're moving, but the border should be just fine. And that border is the part that goes under the mat, so there shouldn't be any issue. We're doing this in real time so you can feel the excruciating pain involved in releasing the tape and hoping that no tears happen. And we're all done. Thanks for following along. Take care.